Okay.
Welcome, Wargamers. This is Doug with 2+ Stuff, and today we're back for another While You're Reforging. This is my not-so podcast show where every week we go through listener mail questions, games played, things like that. Things that you would see on a podcast, but I just don't have the time or patience to coordinate with people to do that thing. So we're going to go ahead and turn the camera down so you can work along with me. And this is my personal invitation. If you have a project you're working on or something like that, painting for a tournament coming up, grab your paintbrushes and models and paint along with me, and we'll have some fun discussion, and we'll answer some questions about the Dread Solstice campaign, and the new Marathi model was actually just spoiled today by GW. So we got some cool topics coming up, as well as 2 games played with the new Malign Portents set. I want to tell you all about them. So let me get the camera turned down, like I said, and we'll jump right in. Okay, and we're back. So what we're looking at here, I always start with hobby progress because you'll see what I'm working on as the show is going on. So today I got 20 more Marauders, these ones with the flails. For me personally, I went ahead and made, well, I got the Chaos stuff that I own, the Slaves to Darkness, in a trade. He had already built a good portion of it, the Warriors and Marauders. Obviously they're on square bases. I will pop them off as soon as I can. He built 20 with the axes and 20 with the flails. Now, I have played many games with them now. I have to say the flails are so much better in my opinion. We will talk about why when I get to my games played, because holy smokes, these guys are nuts. But yeah, so that's what I'll be working on tonight. As you can see, I already did a base of Rakarth flesh. I did a couple layers with that over the torso. I want these guys to be more pale, to have just kind of some variety in how my models look. So these guys are going to be nice and pale. What I'm going to be doing first is getting Dryad bark and just kind of cleaning up the legs. They're all going to have dark brown pants. But just kind of cleaning up like where the skin tone ends, because I was pretty messy when it came to the Rakarth flesh. So that's kind of the plan. Yeah, so we'll get cracking on that. Let me give this thing a good shake, as they say. And a lot of you have suggested making my own wet palette, which I just ordered everything I need to do with that online. So hopefully soon I'll be able to do that. Until then, I'm just very wasteful with paints, because that's how I hobby. I don't claim nor want to be anything special. So I'm a very average hobbyist when it comes to that regard. I like to have a lot of water. Here we go. Okay. At this point, typically... Oh, sorry. Hobby progress that I did before. I did the same skin base coat for the War Queen. I was able to get her assembled, and she takes like 0.5 seconds to assemble. She seriously is like such a simple model. She's quite beautiful. Just the sculpt went together really smoothly, as I kind of expect anymore from sort of the modern GW kits they can do with their molding. It kind of seemed perfect where all of the mold lines were covered up by other details. So there wasn't a ton to clean up, which is really nice. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that in a model, where I don't spend half the time just, you know, cleaning mold lines. I despise cleaning mold lines. Usually don't even do it, which just infuriates my friends. Other than that, I think that's all that I built. I put the finishing touches on those last nights. So that means my entire Path to Glory set is done, which is awesome. So at this point, I just kind of took a break. I guess I did say purchases count as hobby progress. And I made a big step up this last week, where my good friend Brent was looking to clear out some Tzeentch demons. And if you've been following the story of this army, the Slaves to Darkness, really my point is I have hobby ADD very badly. I jump between forces all the time. And it's not even so much boredom, it's just other things. I just need something to kind of stimulate me in different ways to play. And so I used to have Stormcast Eternals, but I didn't care for them on the tabletop. The way they played, it didn't speak to me. Wasn't having the greatest time. I kept losing, but not losing sort of like tactical things. I just got slaughtered a lot, and I just wasn't having fun. And I typically do have fun even if I'm losing. So it's very uncharacteristic of me. They just weren't the army for me, and that's okay. Still love seeing them on the tabletop, love playing against them. Just wasn't my bag for owning my own army. So I wanted to do something where flexibility was really built in. That was really, actually I'm going to go back and do the sticks for these guys. That was really the selling point for Stormcast for me, was like, oh, if I get these guys, then I can ally in, you know, if I ever get the hair to like, oh, I want to paint some, you know, Seraphon. Well, they can be allies with the Stormcast. Sure. You know, that kind of stuff. And so Slaves to Darkness is great because they can almost all, take keywords from the various gods, and I can play the battle tomes for those specific ones. So, for example, if I give all these guys the Tzeentch keyword, I can use the Disciples of Tzeentch rules, because they have mortal Tzeentch units kind of listed out there. They have rules and command traits and all that stuff like that for them. So that's perfect for that kind of thing. It's even more of a you know, in-depth synergy of working with different kinds of sub-factions than Stormcast Eternals have, because the Stormcast don't actually change for that. You just get to take other stuff, which is different. So that's kind of the impetus there. I saw the Disciples of Tzeentch book for pretty cheap at a local store, and so I grabbed it. I said, okay, well, you know, it's as good a place as any. We're going to start with the Tzeentch stuff. And also I have read online, which we're going to be discussing here pretty soon tonight. Destiny dice are fairly good, and I lose 9 out of my 10 games. So maybe having the aid of Destiny wouldn't be the worst thing. Shamelessly using it as a crutch. Which is a joke, by the way. So, yeah, I started with Tzeentch. My friend Brent was looking to clear out some demons. And so, got a whole heckin' ton of them. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what come in there. They're not all assembled. They're kind of in various states of assembly and painting. But there's 30 pink horrors, 3 burning chariots, a herald on a chariot, 6 flamers, 9 screamers, I think? A bunch of screamers. A Lord of Change, which is unbuilt, which I'm very excited to build and paint. You're going to be seeing me for that for several weeks. Doing WYR forging with that guy. And I feel like there's more. Oh, like Gaunt Summoners, just random wizards and heroes and things like that. But that's the bulk of it. Is those units. So that is very exciting. They're in a bin right now. I'm kind of project oriented in how I attack things. So for like right now, like I really wanted to get these guys off my painting table before I start those ones. I'm one of those people, like, I get stressed out if I have too many projects sitting out. I have to be very organized about them. So it just kind of helps my anxiety. So I got everything, I sorted through it, kind of made a plan of action about how I want to paint things later on, and promptly put them all into a bin and put it on my shelf until I'm ready to start taking from there. So that's kind of been my week, but I'm very excited for, one, that Lord of Change, but 2, the Gaunt Summoners, because I really, really like those models. I'm thinking of doing that. It's not really even a conversion, but where you clip, he has like his head and the 2 like Tzeentch eye things that come off the sides. Really thinking, because there's 2 summoners that I have now with that set, for at least one of them clipping the sides off and just having him be like a faceless skin tone guy, you know, like kind of like a horror thing. I really like that idea. So I saw that once on, gosh, I think it was on Instagram. I don't even know who posted it. And really, really enjoyed it. So that's kind of my plan. So yeah, that was a big boon in models. So we'll see some of those coming soon. I'm really excited about Tzeentch because I want to paint different colors. Like, I want my Slaves to Darkness to be blacks and golds and silvers and be kind of drab, I suppose, because I want them to work with anything, but I want my demons for each faction to be very bright and colorful, like to really represent the color scheme of that god, and I think that they'll work together pretty well. The real detail that's going to tie my Slaves to Darkness stuff and my demons together is for all of my Slaves to Darkness, anything with a cape or a tabard in the front, anything like that, it's all going to be white. It's kind of the other thing. Like, if you saw my Sorcerer on a Manicore, you know, pretty typical Chaos scheme. Everything's black, 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 silver, gold. But then his cape was like this like big, beautiful, flowing white. And I like that because I like the bad guys to use white. I feel like it's not done enough. I know it's not a typical bad guy color, but I think it looks really good. So yeah, let's see here. Computer keeps falling asleep. Screen keeps going to sleep on me. Trying to think of any other hobby purchases. I think I got everything for Malign Portents, which I shared last week. And we'll get to that. I actually have not just a report on the games themselves, which I'll get to here in about 2 minutes, but I also want to talk very frankly about like if you get your money's worth. One of the things I had a point about was particularly with the cards that you get from Malign Portents. You know, are these going to be worth the money? And I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And hopefully the answer of why will become clear as I do my games played. Just understand, I in terms of what we're talking about hobby purchases for Hobby Progress, I do think that they're worth the money. So let me grab my super handy dandy. Dropped it. Okay. War Journal. Okay, so two very awesome local gentlemen in my gaming group fought desperately to be the first one in there. But, you know, as with Highlander, there can be only one. So we have Mr. Jack was the first one in the book, and then Brent, who I bought the demons off of, came second. Yeah, so let me put my notebook here so I can read it easily. I think that'll work. Okay. You can't see it because of the glare from the light, but I can read it right here. So we'll just resume painting this way. I can kind of... The only complaint I have about this book is like the binding is super stiff. I'm sure it'll loosen up over time, but like this first few pages and stuff, it's really hard to have the book hold open. And so even as I was trying to write in it, it kept trying to snap shut, and it was a little uncomfortable to write in. So yeah, first game was against Jack, so I brought a unit of... Sorry, I used the same list for both games, so that's important to know, so I'll just get that out of the way now. 2 units of 10 Chaos Warriors, 1 unit of 40 Chaos Marauders, so it was these guys and the guys I had already finished painting. What else did I have in there? I had my Sorcerer on the Manicore. And I bought the Harbinger, because I'll get to the scenario in a second. So I bought the Harbinger. And what else did I bring? A unit of 5 Knights. And I think that was it. Yeah, I think that was it. I can't think of anything else. We did 1,000 point games for all of them. And Jack brought a Khorne Bloodbound list, which was very interesting. His general was the Aspiring Deathbringer. And he had, 2 Slaughter Priests. And the Blood Secretor. A Korgorath, 20 Blood Reavers. Right? Blood Reavers, the kind of, 6-up armor save, the guys you get in the starter set, a bunch of them. 20 of those, and then 10 Blood Warriors, I believe. And it was a great game. We decided to go with no scenario, which is very, if you listen to this channel, I'm all about, you gotta play with battle plans, because sometimes armies aren't really fighty, and so if you just do head-to-head clashes, it doesn't always work well. But we decided to do this one because we really wanted to try out the Malign Portents Rules, and so to acclimate ourselves to using the actual portents, which is like the special abilities you get, we just wanted to go ahead and keep it simple, you know, not have to worry about too much. There are some battle plans that you get in the Malign Portents book, but the thing is, a lot of them have like special rules that, like, instead of generating prophecy points this way, it's like, well, if you don't already understand how prophecy points work, it's kind of hard to start manipulating. So it's like, let's just play a game, get it, you know, kind of figured out, and then from this forward, our gaming group, we can start doing, you know, more intense games like that, which is cool. We're excited for that. Let's see. We have notes here. So basically, his strategy, which was not expected by me, the Slaughter Priests have a prayer where they can, like, add 1 to the armor save of somebody. Basically, it's their version of Mystic Shield. And he put that on the Blood Warriors twice. And so at some point they had a 2-up save. A 2-up save that if you kill the guy, he hits you back. Right? Because they pile in and attack before they get taken off the board. This is a Blood Warrior. And then if they make the save on a 6, they deal a mortal wound, because it's like the gauntlet they're wearing, like, gives the pimp hand right back at you just for hitting them. So pretty brutal. He set that up on what would be the left side to me. So he had the Blood Warriors over on the far left with a Khorne. I think the Khorne was there just to absorb some hits. In the dead center, he had the Blood Reavers. He didn't really... Oh, and he had a Skull Cannon. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that in his list. He had a Skull Cannon all the way on the far right, way out of the range of anything that I could get to him. And dead center of the table to the back was all his heroes. So the Banner, who didn't move really much the entire game, the Aspiring Deathbringer, and the 2 Slaughter Priests. You could pretty much have enough range on their prayers to get to just about anyone. I gave him the first turn because I wanted him to move towards me so that I could probably get the first charge. And so he did that. He put the super prayers on the warriors. They got buffed to high heaven. And his stuff just basically moved forward. Now, I wasn't quite sure what to do. Because I can't leave anything alone because Khorne stuff gets really, really nasty with that Blood Secretor. I knew that. But I also knew that the biggest threat was on the left side with those warriors, and so I wanted to try something new for my strategy, okay? So in the Disciples of Tzeentch book, one of the spells that a mortal can take gives +1 to hit and wound for the caster. Okay. So I have a sorcerer on a mana core. I'm like, okay, this is going to be legit. So put that on him. I also gave him the command trait that says wound rolls of a 6 or more cause a mortal wound. I'm like, okay, we're gonna make this guy fighty. Like, he's gonna do this, you know. Preface. I mean, just give you a spoiler alert. That's a terrible idea. Like, that guy is just not fighty enough to all the buffs in the world can make him fighty. The Sorcerer Lord on the Mana Core, I want him to work, and if you've made him work, I want to hear your opinions on how you did it. But I struggle to get effectiveness from him on the tabletop. Just to put it simply, I'm going to keep using him because he's my guy for the Path to Glory. Thematically, I like him. It's just, in terms of in-game effectiveness, he's not that great. Other than the fact that he can be most anywhere, but if I'm doing Tzeentch stuff, I could just get a dude on a disc and do better than him. But I suppose the wounds have a value of their own. I don't know, there's a back and forth about his value, but generally speaking, I don't think he's that great. So anyway, I buffed him up with that command ability and that spell, and I drove him straight into the head of combat. I was like, he's gonna do it. He's gonna eat some people, and instead he got eaten. And so after, like, I really think it was turn 2, he took my general off the board. What else? The knights came around the side, and I put the knights into the Khorne and the warriors along with the general, thinking surely that knights and the general would be enough to hold off, or at least, we'll kill and or hold off all of the blood warriors. They just weren't. And I put the... What did I do? I had a unit of 10 Chaos Warriors in the left center, unit of 10 Chaos Warriors in the right center, and then in the actual dead center was my 40 Marauders. They had free reign to go any direction they needed to. Marauders slammed into the Reavers at full speed, and really what the theme of the game was how long could Blood Reavers survive? Their numbers dwindled pretty quickly, as you'd expect from an expendable cheap unit like that. The Chaos Warriors on the right were able to go around the unit and actually took out 2 of the Slaughter Priests. So as the game went on, things were kind of grinding down. That was a big thing. When I got the unit of warriors around the Reavers and started killing off his command, that's kind of when his wheels started to come undone. Problem is by the point that I did that, the damage was done. Like, he had destroyed my general, my knights were gone, unit of Chaos Warriors on the left were gone. I had about 15 Marauders left, and yeah, and that was basically it. So what I should have done was put the knights where that far right Chaos Warrior was and had them go around and go for the leaders, because they could have gotten there in ample time. But that's a lesson to be learned. I actually don't know if I've ever played Bloodbound like as a dedicated army. Usually it's kind of Blades of Khorne with a little bit of everything. Bloodletter Bomb is usually in there, but never dedicated Bloodbound. But it was a great game. Jack's always a great opponent to play against. He's very quick on the rules and very accurate, and then just kind of really good at explaining things like, this is why this bonus comes from the parry. This one comes from the Blood Secretor, and I really appreciate that as someone who I'll level with you guys. I'm not great at this game. Like, people ask me questions all the time, and I give my best answer, but really what I generally do is point people in a better direction, like a forum, the TGA forums. Just strategically, I don't get enough practice and that kind of stuff because of my job. Yeah. Anyway, loser excuses aside, I wound up losing that one. However, it was a very close victory for Jack, and so that was really a lot of fun, because at the end of the game, he tabled me, but he only had his Aspiring Deathbringer had like 1 wound left, and he had 2 Blood Warriors, but there's nothing there to buff them, so it could have actually, legitimately gone the other direction. He still had the what do you call it? The cannon, the skull cannon, but that guy didn't make a single shot the entire game. Like, literally the entire game, he didn't do a thing. So he was a little disappointed in that guy. Which I think I've heard that a few times, that skull cannon's not the hotness that people kind of, when they read it, it's like, ooh, it could do this many wounds. It's not that kind of gun. I've looked into it since that game, and people, I think, have more success when they drive it up the front and use the kind of the assaulty combat rules of it to get the most mileage out of it, because if you're just using it for the gun, it's probably not worth it. Again, that's not my opinion, it's just something I read on one of the forums, so take that with a grain of salt. Let's see what else I have here. Yeah, so we did that one pretty simply. I'm going to pause on talking about the Malign Portents Rules and what we thought about them, because the next game that I played was the exact same, where we didn't have a scenario, we just wanted to introduce the rules. I met at Mock's boarding house here in Bellevue to get the demons off of Brent, and then Jack was like, hey, can I come? And like, yeah, come on over. So we played while we were waiting for Brent. So Brent arrived afterwards, didn't see the game using the Malign Portents Rules, so yeah, we had a second game without a scenario and stuff like that. So I wanted, by that time I felt comfortable with them, but I want everyone to feel comfortable before we start dropping crazy rules. So had a very different game with Brent, where I brought the same army, so it's 2 things of Chaos Warriors, 40 Marauders in a unit, the Chaos Sorcerer and a Mana Core, and the Harbinger. And Brent, let me see if I got it here. Let me see if I wrote it down. I don't remember if it was 20 or 30 horrors, but they were in units of 10. There were, I believe, 9 Screamers, a Herald on a Chariot, the Burning Chariot, a Herald on foot, and 3 Flamers. I think there was only 2 units of 10 horrors, because that was the battle line requirement, if I'm not mistaken. And this one, okay, I'm going to spend a little more time here, because the next discussion I want to have is about, one of our topics for tonight is Destiny Dice. And I played Tzeentch Mortals, he played Tzeentch Demons, and we used the Destiny Dice completely differently. In our group chat, we had been talking about, you know, our Destiny Dice too good and all this kind of stuff. Going back and forth, there's 4 of us in the group chat, and it's a lot of fun. Great guys to debate with. No one is fond of hyperbole, you know. Always does this. Oh, you know, nothing like that. Very level-headed. And Brent's tactic, because he was running demons, was Destiny Dice exist for Battle Shock and spells. And me playing Mortals, I have a Chaos Lord and a Mana Core, who's a really crappy spellcaster without any kind of real bonuses. You know, it is not good, and only 1 spellcaster in a Tzeentch army is not great. So I'm not going to use them for that. I'm going to use them for what I did, which is charges. So we set up the table. It's the same table. We moved the terrain around a little bit. Again, this is just to test out the Malign Portents Rules and kind of get ourselves comfortable. So, because we are going to be participating in the campaign. And so, he deployed fewer units. He said, okay, you come first, because he wanted me to charge and, to run forward right into his shooting range for his flamers. And, ran everything up. He kind of pivoted, I guess, to get his guns kind of in a better place. Took some pot shots, did some spells. Kind of did the first thing. He didn't do a ton of damage the first turn, which I think that was the killing blow. Because turn 2, there were no double turns in that game the entire time. And in that one, I used the Destiny Dice to charge 40 Marauders straight into his line, and they were able to clip 10 Horrors and the Flamers. The Flamers were my real target, because the Flamers can eat things like Marauders for breakfast if you just let them. And so that's really what I was looking for, but they were kind of like nestled in between different units, and so I just clipped them all. Was able to get in there, and I think that was really when things went downhill. Because they made a 12-inch charge. I used both 6s that I rolled. Neither of us rolled particularly well for our Destiny Dice. I mean, like, it was about average. A 6, a 5, and a 4, and then a couple, you know, I had a bunch of 2s, he had a bunch of 3s. But yeah, and so one of the terrain features that he parked himself on was Arcane, and so being the spellcaster that he was really firing off. I got to see what having a unit of sorcerers like the Pink Horrors can really do, and I think that was really cool to see. It kind of confirmed that I wanted to buy that army, to be frankly with you, because it was really cool to see him do so much stuff. You know, like, they're not great in combat, no, but that's not every unit needs to be. So that was cool to see. So how'd the game go? The game was very one-sided in my favor. Once that wall of Marauders hit, it was basically toast, because a lot of his stuff had to retreat to be able to shoot late next turn, hopefully survive. I tied up every single thing. The entire game, my general was befuddled, because he parked right next to the wrong piece of terrain. And so he did absolutely nothing to help the war effort. And it just wound up with me, once that wall of Marauders hit, he didn't have enough damage output to ever eat through 40 bodies. And it's 40 bodies on top of the other, 2 units of 10 warriors, so it's another 20 wounds coming at you. And so it was just too much. But here's the cool thing, and this is why I like Brent. And Brent, if you're listening, this is why I like you. We had a narrative going. We wanted to do a storyline thing for Malign Portents about why this battle is happening. Even though we're just learning the rules, we want to participate. So our storyline was that my general, and I have a name for him, I wrote it down and I completely forgot it, wants to seek the favor of Tzeentch and use Tzeentch's armies to make himself a great name in the mortal realms. And so to do that, he was going to contact, get some Tzeentch demon allies. And to do that, he had to subjugate them. And so that battle was him defeating the Tzeentch demons in order to learn their names, bind them to himself. So now they are his servants. So my Chaos Sorcerer and Mana Core now has his own little demon cohort, which is super sweet. Narratively, when I have the Lord of Change built completely, the story will go that he did not know that those demons already belong to someone, which is obviously the Lord of Change. And he's going to step in and be like, no, but now you both belong to me, and take over from there. So I'm very excited for the narrative that we have going on. We did contribute to the Dread Solstice campaign. I chose the Eye. I think Jack did too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think so. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of how that game went. It was, like I said, very one-sided. Because I ran everything and then charged and used Destiny dice to make that charge, that, statistically almost irrelevant charge happen, the entire game took place in Brent's deployment zone and particularly in the far left corner. And I just had more bodies than he could deal with, and that's really what it came down to. As far as anything else, the game's taught me a few things. With the game with Jack versus Bloodbound, that's when I was first learning the Malign Portents Rules, which we'll talk about here in a second. It's one of our main subjects. I like them. They'll take you one turn of feeling awkward and double-checking things, but when that turn's done, you know exactly what you're doing, and the rest of the game goes smooth as butter. And so that was pretty cool. Then that way I was already prepared, ready to show Brent it for the second game. So I liked how simple it was. It doesn't look that simple when you're reading the book. When you're playing the game, it is actually very, very easy. So I want to emphasize that. As far as things I learned from the Bloodbound game, you got to get to the heroes. Holy smokes. I've never faced an army where getting to the support heroes was so paramount to victory. So yeah, that was really cool. And then with Brent, it was more, I liked seeing the demons and use of Destiny dice for spells, which I don't usually use them for, because these guys don't really need that. And then seeing, like the little synergies, like horrors getting +1 for their shooting or whatever, I think it's maybe casting, if they're near a hero. And then the other hero bonuses that they can hand out, and that kind of stuff. Like the little minutia things when you're looking at an army that if you're just looking at models online, you don't catch. So it was really cool to see that. And those are my games played, brought to you by the handy dandy war journal, which I will continue to use. A lot of fun. Well, a lot of fun. Need to get a better pen, but like I said, except for that one thing where like the first few pages the book kind of wants to snap shut, definitely a worthwhile purchase, or make your own with a notebook or something like that. I don't remember who it was. I thought one of the big names or whatever had a PDF document or whatever. Maybe I'm wrong. So with games played done, we're going to move into Q&A. And these are questions that come from you guys, the listener. And if you want to send me one, go ahead down in the show notes, click the link to the survey, and you are free to ask any questions you like as long as they stay on topic. And you don't have to give me your name, but if you do, I'll shout you out. And I only have 4 questions today, so it should be pretty quick. Before I hop into them, I'm going to grab a different color since I was able to finish the browns pretty quickly. What do I want to do now? We will grab Lead Belcher. Might as well get started on the metallics, right? For these guys, I'm probably going to leave the shoes just black the way they are. I don't do a ton of work when it comes to Marauders because I spend more time packing, unpacking, and taking these guys off the table than they actually spend on it. And when you reach that kind of special place, you get a special kind of paint job, which usually means just primer. Okay, I think I'm all set here. Here we go. Okay, the first one is a fairly long one. Comes from Renato. Renato says, "Hey, great idea for this WYR reforging. Listen to it while I painting." Well, thank you. Please enjoy it. I bought the new Nagash book, and I'm not sure if you can help out, but I have a few questions about the rules. Happy to help. Let's see. If you go Allegiance Night Haunt, now you can't summon anything anymore as you don't have the graveyard. That is correct. The updated War Scrolls do not any longer have the summonable, like the Death Mages or whatever, the summon Spirit Host. We'll go with that for example. Anymore. That's off the War Scroll, and so if you go Night Haunt, it does not work. I think, if I'm not mistaken, with the Night Haunt specifically, their Allegiance abilities, before I go any further in your question, I think they have a way of bringing people on, because don't the Banshee and the Kieran Wraith get a way to summon people, but it's not necessarily like a spell? I thought. I can double check. But you are correct, yes. Other sub-factions can't summon things in because those things, regardless of sub-faction, are no longer on the individual units' War Scroll. So, going on. The battle lines for Night Haunt are specified in the book, but I suppose you are still limited to the options from the General's Handbook, right? Well, there's no Night Haunt listed in, there's no Night Haunt Allegiance ability listed in Legions of Nagash. So I guess, yeah, because you would have to use the Allegiance abilities found in General's Handbook. So you would probably also use them from the General's Handbook, what it says is Night Haunt Allegiance, or Night Haunt Battle Line. So I would say yes. He says, for example, I can't use other units from Nagash book if they don't have the Night Haunt keyword. And since I can't summon anymore, I'm forced with the 2 options, 3 with the Mourn Goal. I'm trying to clear up the English a little bit as I'm reading this. So basically, the conundrum is that Night Haunt is not in the Legions of Nagash book. So Night Haunt players are kind of in this weird place between, using updated War Scrolls and Allegiance abilities that are found in the General's Handbook. And I think that's, if we're going to kind of zoom out and kind of answer the real question, that's kind of the position this gentleman's stuck in. You are correct that you can't summon anything of those things anymore. You can take other units as allies, because Night Haunt still has a set of allies that they can take as dictated in the General's Handbook 2017. But that's kind of the best that you can do. Keep in mind, if you're going strictly with the Legions of Nagash, a lot of those rules say, for units in this book, and things like the Mourngul are not in there. If you want to kind of open things up, you can always do Grand Alliance Death, but yeah, it's not the same. They made Death way better. I love the Legion of Nagash book. I'm pumping out content about it this week. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's effective on the tabletop. The only thing is it puts some of the sub-factions in a really weird place. And I get when people aren't super happy about that. Because of things like this. Why is Night Haunt this way? How come Vargheists are no longer battle line? Because now Soulblight Allegiance, even though they made that Allegiance in the actual book itself, it's not really a thing anymore, because you kind of needed the Vargheists to kind of fill your battle line, and then you can use the Soulblight dudes, Blood Knights, as your elite troops, which is kind of what they're supposed to be. So there's a lot of questions, and very valid ones. I think the focus of the book was to say everyone picks a Mortarch. I don't think as much thought was giving into the minor factions, right? I think they kind of got neglected a little bit. My suggestion to you, and this is just something I think you should kind of explore and check out, rather than playing Night Haunt Allegiance, pick one of the Mortarchs that you think works the best for them, and then just willingly, of your own volition, try to choose to stick with, Night Haunt stuff. And the reason I say that is because the rules clarifications rules become a lot clearer if you just pick one of the Mortarchs and then just choose models based on the way you like them. I know that means you'll have to pick something besides Spirit Host, I believe, to be your battle line. You'll need, because I think your battle line options are zombies, skeletons, and direwolves. Pick one of those and theme it to make it match your army, and then from there pick everything that's Night Haunt. And the reason I say that is not because Night Haunt Allegiance sucks or anything like that. I think it's really cool. It's just in terms of these kinds of questions, they made them really, really difficult to solve. Like, Night Haunt was already an army, even with their Allegiance abilities, that was like, okay, this is a cool way to play this fluffy thing and not be, worried about effectiveness, but it's a cool army and it does cool and unique things in the tabletop, which is what you want. And they kind of turned it into, wow, this is almost a challenge to use, because now you have two different sources of rules, and it just gets very, very complicated and convoluted, frankly. So my suggestion is, before going too far down the rabbit hole with what Night Haunt does, give it a chance to see what one of the the legions can do from the Nagash book, and see if you can make something work. Just choosing to use Night Haunt models as the kind of dominant theme in the army. And then, yeah, he finishes. Sorry, I didn't finish reading all this. It's a lot of text. It says, just to be clear, I was doing a Night Haunt army, and I don't like skeletons, zombies, or direwolves. My idea was to get a Mortarch, any allied points, and summon in the rest to get 2,000. I think it is possible, as the summon shouldn't count as allies. Yes, summon stuff doesn't really have an allegiance when it comes to that. Yeah, I honestly, there's just no way really around it right now. Until we have some clarification. Some people are thinking that Night Haunt's going to get their own book eventually. It's kind of all over the place. It's a hard thing to kind of work through. I mean, honestly, if somebody gave me a Night Haunt army, I wouldn't know where to start. I'd love it. I think they're cool. But in terms of list building, they're kind of at a very hard place. Your idea of kind of building a Night Haunt army, having Neferata or whatever allied in, and then she can summon other stuff, that's fine. The problem is, a lot of stuff, well, you can't summon it anymore, so yeah, that's kind of gone. I suppose you could still summon a Morngul, right? I mean, as far as I know, he didn't change. Yeah. So I don't have a pleasing answer for you. I apologize. If anyone does know, leave it in the comments down below how you would go about doing a Night Haunt army. I think that would be great. We can help out Renato. Okay, next question. Moving away from hopefully things I don't know what I'm talking about. Mr. Donald Flowers asks, do you think they may have updated rules for the Gutbusters tribe of ogres to make them a valid army again and not just a legacy army soon? I would love to see them added to Beastclaw Raiders and give them more variety and versatility. Yeah, I mean, I think the day of making armies legacy stuff, I think we're past that. And the reason is the great purge that happened when they made the Grand Alliance books. That was when we saw units getting deleted. We really haven't seen anything since then. Maybe some rewrite of names and things like that, but not discontinuation of product lines. I think they wanted exactly one nail in that coffin, and that was it. As far as Gutbusters coming out, I am not sure. I think on some level, the generic armies for each Grand Alliance, I think they're going to take a while. And here's what I mean. Like, free people, slaves to darkness, and ogres, like, they're generic enough to work with everyone. I think they're hard-pressed to put those kinds of factions into stone, because they're kind of the glue that can bind just about any other weird combination together. Yeah, I don't know. Like, would not be surprised if Slaves to Darkness didn't get their own book, and they just kind of kept doing books that can use them rather than their own exclusive thing. And I think the same thing for Gutbusters. Like, I don't know, but I guess kind of the Greenskins are also kind of the generic faction for Destruction, aren't they? I could be wrong. I do know if they do make a book, I want them to be different. Like, I'm not interested in a bunch of different renditions of Beastclaw Raiders. I want them to be thematically different. And if I'm being totally honest, I want them to be better. Like, from a lore perspective, BCR are a fantastic army, and they look phenomenal, and all this stuff like that. Their lore, the actual way the book was written, is very tough to understand because, as I did my lore review on them, I think that they just didn't handle the idea of a mysterious origin very well. And it wound up having this, like, okay, well, they're being chased by a storm, but no one really knows why, and it's just kind of happening. Like, it's just there. And I really wanted more out of that lore, so I'd love for them to revisit. If they do revisit the Battle Tome, absolutely. Yeah, dude, stick those Gutbusters in there and just kind of integrate them. And it wouldn't take very much to do that. You know, in terms of just writing them in, it really would not take much. So, I would love to see it. I was never a massive Ogre fan. But, you know, I know people are, like, super diehard into them, and I respect the heck out of that. As far as what they could be, I don't know. I mean, I don't have any, like, crazy imaginings of what they could possibly do. Let's see here. They would be a good addition to Beastclaw Raiders, though, because that having ground troops that are a little cheaper would be a good bit of versatility. Okay, next question is Matt. I think it's Hirt, H-I-R-T-E. Hirt. Did you participate in the former AOS global campaign? What were your experiences? What are your thoughts about the current Malign Portents global campaign? Will you participate in the fan-organized Coalescence Malign Portent event? Okay, a few questions there. I'm going to break them down one by one. Did I participate in the AOS global campaign? The one that was in the Realm of Life, fighting for all those cities, I think. Can't you remember what it was called? Yeah, I don't know, but I did, yes. Not very many games. At that point, I still had my old job, which sucked the life out of me on a daily basis. So I didn't play a ton of them, but I did. I did enjoy them. As far as what were my experiences, your second question, I didn't have the highest opinion of it. And the reason is they made it based upon faction, meaning you fought for your Grand Alliance, and you know, if you were a Death player winning, then no, Death is an ascendancy and whatever like that. The problem was that at the time when that campaign went down, it was never going to be a fair fight, right? It was never going to be this, like, well, who's going to take it? We don't even know. It was Order. Every week for the several weeks that it went on, Order dominated every single region, whatever like that. They couldn't be stopped. They even did a cool thing where, like, you know, for this week only, Chaos armies and Destruction armies get to use this cool, unique artifact. And it was just like, in any other scenario would have been a really good artifact, but it was just so heavy leaning on the Order side that, like, it didn't make a difference. Like, nothing was going to stop Order from winning that campaign. And really, at a certain point, everyone was just like, okay, so we could just might as well just play normal games if they're just going to win and not report it. So I didn't have the best experience because it was so heavily one-sided, and that was more to do with the things that had been released than the actual campaign setup. But as far as the game, the results of campaigns affecting things, I actually think they did a really good job, and I don't think people have really revisited that. I think we have a very short memory. But all of those cities were taken by order, and they are referenced a lot in the Firestorm campaign series, or campaign set. Why? Well, because Order won, and those are their bastions, So I thought, all in all, they did a very good job of following up with their promise of saying, what happens here will affect the lore, because it does. Because books like City of Secrets and stuff like that, those take place in the cities that were being fought over. Now, of course, I think that book would have come out regardless, but they very easily could have made it a different city, a new city. You know what I mean? They could have finagled their way out of that. Give me 1 second, and I'll read the follow-ups to that question here. Okay. What are your thoughts on the current Malign Portents global campaign? I have a much higher opinion of it. And the reason is, and this is really important, it's not about Grand Alliance. I think they learned their lesson. It's a trial and error thing. It always is. It doesn't matter if it's like a local GT or a Grand Tournament or an international campaign. You got to learn lessons. The lesson being, there's a lot of Order armies out there. So let's detach victory and storyline from faction, and let's make it about choosing things. So in the current thing, you don't actually play for your Grand Alliance. What happens is every week, the Malign Portents website, the Dread Solstice specifically, where they kind of go over the campaign stuff, poses a challenge or a question, right? And you can respond to it in one of three ways. Let me pull up what this week's is. If you will, forgive my clicking and kind of zooming around here. Because I'd love to go over this, because actually one of the guys in my gaming group, Mark, the web page for the Dread Solstice stuff is very awkwardly put together. And so it's kind of hard to piece together what's actually going on. So every week you get something called a dilemma, okay? And it's like a one-paragraph blurb about some tumultuous thing that's coming up above, coming to you. And so, for example, this one says, an ancient power is rising, that much your seers have divined beyond a doubt. Since SIgmar's tempest broke across the mortal realms, the iron stranglehold of chaos has been weakened. It's not only the God King's followers that have made use of this opportunity. None truly know what destiny is in store. See, this is the problem. I'm trying to find what today's dilemma is, and it gave me a strange... That's not quite the dilemma here. Many rulers are turning a blind eye to the rumors of supernatural phenomena in their domains. For these lands, ravaged by a dominion of brutes and tyrants, are no stranger to evil spirits and corrupted souls. But you know to trust your guts and instinct as well as the advisors. What will you do to prepare for the tumultuous times ahead? So that's your quandary, right? Your dilemma. And every week you get one of three choices in how to respond to that dilemma. When you're playing games, right, if you win a game, you get to vote on how you would handle that thing. And so what we're doing is, by playing games and voting for, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. By voting for games and how you're doing those things, you're directing the story a particular route in how you respond to things. When you win a game, you get one vote. If you paint a model in the store, or a unit or whatever, in the store, you get a vote as well. So, for example, that one of like, how will you respond to the things coming up? It's an intro one, not very hardcore. You get three options. There's the falling star. No, sorry. What is it? The drake, the eye, and the skull, I think, were the three options. And so, for example, the falling star says, the stars themselves are the key. You use powerful spells or Shaman rights to manipulate the special bodies. So you're going to manipulate things with magic to make universe happen. The eye is even an ill wind can fill your sails. Whilst hope is replaced with paranoia and superstition, you make the most of the growing madness. And the last one is the skull, which is, how dare these stargazing fools spread dire rumors. You are not afraid of the darkness. Exile these bothersome prophets or send their secrets to the grave. So that's your choose your own adventure thing. Look to the stars for answers, subjugate them with the skull, or use the eye to like seize every opportunity available to you. And so me and Jack, because I won the game against Brent, and Jack won the game against me, I think we both went for the eye, if I'm not mistaken. Which was the make the most of the growing madness, because it sounds kind of chaosy, which is cool. So yeah, and that's how it works. So you asked me, what do I, how do I feel about it? I think it's set up for success by detaching itself from factions. I think there's a much more likelihood that people are going to have a really good experience, because we're still directing narrative, but we're just not doing it in a way that makes some armies feel lame. Because I think if we were to do that exact same thing again, first of all, I think Order would win again. Because I still think they're that good. There's just so many options available to them. But I think the real people who are going to feel kind of left out are destruction players, because Chaos and Order have really always had their time in the sun, but now Nick Legions and Nagash does. And yeah, there's been a few, destruction armies, Bone Splitters, Iron Jaws, things like that, Beast Claw Raiders. But I think they need more, and I'm hoping they get it this year. I'm really, actually, my hope is that the lack of destruction stuff in General's Handbook was an indicator that battle tomes are on their way out. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Malign Portents campaign, the actual storylines with that. And you asked, will I participate in the Coalescence Malign Portent event? I'd like to. I actually spoke to one of the gentlemen who runs it. He bought a mat off my gaming channel, and I'm eternally grateful. And the more I kind of looked into his resources like that, like they have kind of a great system down for managing these things. And the week that I was talking to him, it just became very apparent at work that I can't do it. We lost a person at work, so the workload kind of got redistributed in a way that's not very helpful for me. Also, trying to run an event locally, and also, frankly, locally, we don't have a whole lot of narrative players for Age of Sigmar. We've tried a few times to get people together to do story days or like that. We have a very competitive crowd who aren't interested in that kind of stuff, and so it's something that I would much rather just take that time and play a bunch of games with my friends in my gaming group, all 4 of us or 5 of us, something like that, and know that I'm going to have fun playing narrative stuff than an event. So that's kind of where I've been left with that. But I do follow the results and those things religiously, because I support the heck out of that stuff. I think it's really, really cool. I'm curious to see how it goes this year. So thanks, Matt. Last question is from George AQ, who's asked a few questions here. And he asks, do you think that Sigmar knows how some Stormcast chambers are purging chaos by killing people? If you're not familiar, the Malign Portents had several short stories come out leading up to its release, and more than one of those short stories actually was about Stormcast Eternals coming into an area, and I think it was the Knights Excelsior, whatever the white ones are, the ones in the white Sigmarite, coming to an area that was infested by Nurgle, and they refused to let the kind of taint of chaos exist, and so they wound up purging people who were very much not chaos followers. In one story, it was a former Free Guild warrior, and his son was sick, and so they had to kill the son, so they ended up killing him in the process. And the second story was they got to a Free Guild base just absolutely full of innocent people, and locked the door and just murder-faced everyone in there. So, not good guy stuff. Do I think that SIgmar knows? That's a tough question. You would think yes, like on some deity level he would know what his people are doing. I think the bigger question is, does he care? And the reason I say that is because there's no indication that what they did was really wrong in terms of, like, you know, in battle, you got to make some tough calls, and stopping the infection is a tough call. But, you know, these are all the people he kicked out of, you know, not kicked out of, but locked out of his ear, so he could, you know, he's not, my point being, he is prone to making the tough decisions, and so I'd be more interested if he cares rather than if he knows. You know, as somebody who, you know, SIgmar being someone, like I said, he's made the tough call. He locked the door to his ear and left a lot of people out there to die, so that he could have time to do his Stormcast project. Like, I think that he's someone who understands or sees kind of the bigger picture, you know, the greater good, if you will. But there are a lot of things in his temperament have changed since the Age of Sigmar started, meaning he used to be described as very brash and very aggressive like that, and like his temperament has toned down. That's why he doesn't walk on the battlefield anymore, because he kind of keeps himself in check that way. So yeah, do I think he knows? Probably knows. I'm gonna say a firm probably. Do I think he minds? To answer my question, to follow up yours, I like to think he doesn't approve, but I think there's a strong sense to me that he's just like, we got to do what we got to do, and it makes him look evil, legitimately. I think that's good for the storyline, to be honest with you. I think it was necessary to have diversity of opinions rather than like, he's the good guy, and this is the bad guy. And Nagash is sort of a bad guy, but not really. He's just kind of a not good guy. You know what I mean? Now we have like legitimate reasons for people to hate Sigmar. Legitimate reasons for people to worship Nagash, and those kinds of things. I think that just adds to good storytelling and really good narrative building. Okay, friends. So, we are just over an hour right now. And I'm going to finish these last few guys, and then we're going to click off for the day, because I got a whole bunch of death videos to edit, and holy fazoli. I'm hard at work getting those done. This is actually my real excuse for having a chance to sit down and paint. Things that I wanted to talk about, though, is the actual Malign Portents Rules when playing games. So I did a quick review in my last video about the book itself and things like that, but I hadn't really played it. So now having played it, I can talk intelligently about you know, how it went and things like that. I have to say, I like it more than I thought I was going to. I'm not a big rules guy, you know. I'm not looking for the best set of rules and like that, or like ways to exploit things, anything like that. But I have to say that it seemed on the surface like a lot of the Malign Portents stuff was just going to be... When you first open the book, it does look like a bunch of charts. Like, here's your Realmscape rules, and here's your how many people die, roll this thing rule. Oh, and here's your actual, like the actual Malign Portents, like the actual abilities, whatever. You know what I mean? It's just a lot of bookkeeping, and like, I didn't want to do more bookkeeping. But when you actually start playing it, it is not like that. It is very fluid, very easy to understand. The Realmscape rules are literally just, you roll a die at the beginning of the game, and there's that effect the entire game. And I think my one with Jack, it was +1 bravery. I think the one with Brent, it was +1 to casting, I think. Don't hold me to that, but I think that was it. And it was really nothing. So nothing really, you know, in terms of keeping track of a lot of data, it was really easy. What else? The biggest thing was using harbingers and stuff for... I think it's so annoying that the rules that you get for prophecy points is called Malign Portents in the campaign called Malign Portents. It's so frustrating. But the Malign Portents rules for Malign Portents, where you accrue prophecy points and things like that. Ash Barker on Guerrilla Miniature Gaming described it as just an alternate version of command points from 40k. And really it's what it is. The important difference is, actually backing up to explain it, what happens is every battle round, you and your opponent roll a die. We did this the same time as we rolled the turn die to see who takes initiative or whatever. And you get that many prophecy points. Okay? You also get additional bonuses to how many prophecy points you have every turn. If you have a Harbinger, or, you know, there's a bunch of those, that whole list of modifiers to that. You know what I mean? So you get +1 for every priest or wizard that you have, +3 for Harbinger, I think 3 if you have a War Squire or Citadel, more if you're in the Realm of Death, that kind of stuff. And so I brought the Harbinger, and my opponents didn't. That made a difference, because I was able to throw out, on average, probably 1 to 2 more abilities than them in a given turn. And your prophecy points go away at the end of your battle. At the end of your battle round, and then you roll and roll more. So it's a resource that you don't bank them, right? Unlike command points in 40k, where you want to use them at the right opportunities because you have a limited resource. You don't bank these. The minute you can use them, I recommend you do. And they tell you exactly when they can be used and stuff like that. And kind of the issue we had was it's not conducive to just walking up to a table and playing a game. You have to read ahead what portents you want to use, because they're so unique. Each one of them is like, in your hero phase you can do blank. Okay, well you have 1 for hero phase, 2 for combat, 1 for battle shock, and like they're used and activated at very different times. So you can't just like roll up and, like me and Jack, we did that. We walked up and just started using them. And we stood there for like 15 minutes just reading our cards, trying to digest the information, because it's a lot to, know what's at your disposal. And so I recommend reading ahead, seeing which one you want to use. Just pick one, try to memorize the abilities to the best of your ability, and then trying to get your most out of them, because it was a lot of fun. The first game I took the skull one. It's like the red skull or the bloodied skull, something like that. And the second one I just used the Harbinger's abilities herself. I actually like hers a lot. The Chaos Harbinger has an arcane bolt type thing. She also has a mortal wound giving out spells. So like, you spend 1 to 5 prophecy points. You roll that many dice, however many you spent. I don't know, 4 up, it's a mortal wound. That was baller. So yeah, I mean, they're very, very cool. What I will tell you more than anything is that you play one game of this and you're going to feel very comfortable with it. I loved it. So that is my after action report on those. So had great games with both Jack and Brett. Can't stress that enough. And in addition to that, got a great taste of what Malign Portents can do. I think this coming week, I think we're going to try and dive more into the scenarios and stuff that kind of manipulate the prophecy point mechanic and get some more out of it. So ending up tonight, I have my Marauders with pants and most of the metallics done. I have to go back after I get the skin done. I'll go back. So a lot of them have like the chains on their chest, but I'll wait until skin's done to go and do that little detail because I don't want to paint over it again. So thank you so much, friends. Again, if you want to have me answer a question, go ahead and click in the link down below and it'll take you to SurveyMonkey, or you can ask any question you like. And I'm happy to help as much as I can. I'm not a tactical genius, but hey, I do what I can. And I look forward to all of our discussions. If you are enjoying Nagash Week or Legions of Nagash Week, let me know, because this is something that not every channel does it. I want it to be kind of a unique thing where I just take a week or so and dedicate to something that people are really interested about, and trying to bring lore and fun and hobby and all that kind of stuff to people. So thank you so much for watching, and guys, talk to you next time you're reforging.